Okay.
and then they threw in, and so then it was just coming up with the look of the characters, and I think you'll see some of that in some of the concept stuff that we have here. There was a lot of playing around with what the characters would look like, and that was the biggest challenge is how are we going to get all these characters into the same game? Because even early on, even Pixar wasn't real hip to the idea of even having their own Pixar characters, blending with each other. They weren't
Right.
sure about how the Incredibles were going to play with, the Toy Story characters and all of those. And so it was really trying to come up with that look. And so, once they were able to get that, that's when it really gelled. That's when Lasseter was like, this is cool because now, we can kind of see them all in the same universe. And that was the biggest challenge up front was getting Lasseter to sign off on that. And once we showed him, the toys and the look of those characters, then it was like, once we got his green light, that just paved the way. It made things much more easier.
Yeah.
And I am bringing up some of this test footage now, Thomas. I just showed folks the early test of Sully, which is super interesting because he looks different. I mean, he's very similar, and you can see that a lot of it stayed, but he does look different. And now I'm showing a Mr. Incredible.
And a lot of these we were experimenting with the look of the character, trying to see how, we knew we were going to have to simplify stuff in order to get all these characters in the game, and then also the fact that these were all supposed to be toy representatives of these characters. So it wasn't really Sully. It was a toy Sully. It was a toy Mr. Incredible. So you would see we would put the seams on their arms to make them like little action figures, and trying to keep the animations very simplified and very toy-like was important. And you could see even in that Sully, we were playing with the mouth textures. If we can just flash on and off mouth shapes and that kind of thing. And the early Mr. Incredible stuff, you see how much he's changed. Just trying to get that kind of really toy-like feel. That was the thing we were really trying to push was that these were toys. These were like a kid in his room taking out, emptying his toy box and having all these toys in the middle of his room. And so you would have, the Incredibles here and Toy Story here and Monsters Inc. here, and how would that all play together? That was the idea, and was just having this free to play, just do whatever you want kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because as soon as you said Mr. Incredible, we showed him on screen, and it's a weight test. Was that trying to figure out the physics of the game of a weighted object, or
that's just an old standard animation test? Okay. In Maya, in the 3D software, in computer space, everything is weightless.
Okay.
Nothing has weight, and so to do an animation test of a character, and you're creating that illusion of weight. That's just an animation thing that you want to try to accomplish. And so I think I was testing out the character, the new rig that had just come in, and it's like, what are we going to do with him? We're going to have him run and jump. It's like, let's have him lift something and just see if we can make him look, powerful, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I apologize. I couldn't find this quick enough, but I'm now on the image that you sent us with comparing the film versions of the toy versions of the characters, and
isn't that funny?
It still blows me away how recognizable it is. I mean, obviously their forms and stuff is pretty obvious, but just exactly who it is, and they from the very beginning to the very end, they've maintained their Infinity style, but it's just still so recognizable as the characters. But it's funny because not only visually, as far as like their figures, but take Jack Sparrow as an example. His animation is so Jack Sparrow, like the way he moves, the way he kind of stumbles, and with that adds so much life to the character, just as much as it's kind of silhouette.
Yeah, that was that was something that we were always conscious of is we really, through the animation, we really wanted to nail who this character was, and try to keep him. And that's a good point as far as going back to the 2D days of is keeping a character on model. There's so much more to on model than just the look, drawing the character to look like the character, but there's also keeping him on model in a sense of his character and his performance. And so how he would run, how he would move, different attacks, like we really wanted to make sure we captured the character and the essence of that character. And Jack Sparrow's a great example of that. Nigel Stiles, one of our lead animators, and he did a lot of work on Jack Sparrow, and just really did beautiful stuff on him, as well as Syndrome. The Syndrome run, if you in the original Infinity game, it's the way Syndrome runs. He's like this. He's got this great. That was Nigel's, and just really nailed
great.
that stuff. I mean, he was just brilliant at it. And so that was a big thing of really just wanting to capture the character with all their emotions.
Well, was it? Oh, sorry. Well, go ahead.
Nope. It's all you, buddy.
Was it always the intent to make it a toy to life game though? I know Battle. What's the other one? Skylanders was out before this one. So was that kind of, we have this game and we have these cool models. Let's make them real and turn it into that type of game, or was it always going to be like a toy to life type game?
It was. From what I remember, we were working on the game before the idea for the toys came along, and so it was something that kind of happened. And I think it was a bit inspiration by the Skylanders thing. It was just exploding. It was just starting to take off,
huge.
and this just seemed like a perfect fit for that kind of thing. I mean, we had these beautiful designs. That they were our concept guys were creating. They were so appealing, and so it just seemed like a nice fit. Like this would be really cool to be able to hold this figure, because it's just so beautiful to look at. It's got these great angles, and I have to point out. I mean we were a little skeptical at first when they decided to make the toys, the figures. We were thinking, because it's a big. It would have been easy for a big corporation to go really cheap on these and to make them like Happy Meal toys, and that was kind of our first fear. Like, oh man, I hope they don't cheap out on these things, because we can have something really cool. And I have to credit Jeff Bunker, our art director. He fought. I mean, and he went. I mean, full force on this. Fighting, demanding the quality of the characters, of the figures, and the way you see them now was a huge part just on him. Just like, we have to make sure these things are cool, and he fought for the detail, for the cool matte finish. He wanted these to be something cool that you can put on your desk, whether you played the game or not. That you would want these, and that was a huge plus, that he did that he really wanted to make sure these things were top notch, and I got to hand it to Jeff Bunker the way he did that, and the game wouldn't, I don't think, has been as successful as it was without his charge in making those figures as good as they were.
Well, I was on a podcast last week. We were guesting on another podcast, and the Infinity Adventure was on the podcast, and he was discussing how he's enjoying watching all of this information kind of come out now about the game, of what could have been, all the future possible characters. But the thing he's enjoyed kind of observing is the general gaming industry kind of taking note and wanting these figures and these characters just as bad as the rest of us, and that's one thing you always hear about, is that you hear that sometimes people, especially in the gaming industry, they have to play. If you're part of the media, you have to play so many games. But I had heard countless times. I have tons of these figures just hanging out on my desk because I love them so much, and that's just such a testament to, like you said, the quality of them. I mean, I still have a case full of them over here, and that's because they are Disney collectibles just as much as they are these Toys to Life characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's been the cool thing. I mean, that was, we were always just so proud of the figures when they came out. It was always neat to see the new ones coming up. We would all get so excited when we would see early concept stuff about, it's going to be so cool when they finally make this, and then how the public, the fans are going to react when they see this. We'd get so excited, like, I can't wait for this one, for people to see this, because they're going to freak out on this one. And so yeah, that was really cool. That was a big part of it. Having those. I mean, God, I still have all of them up on my wall still. I no plans of taking them down. They're just really cool to have.
That's great.